Hi there. Just taking a walk through my so-called fruit garden, my pawpaws, and I have blueberries and a couple of cherries in there. Just looking things over, and I brought some pots out here that I want to share a thought with you on. Now, a pot like this, 3-gallon pot, I've used to start pawpaw seeds in, and I've used to start persimmon seeds in. And I was able to start a whole bunch of them in one pot. I think I probably had a total of about 35 seeds in this pot for pawpaws, and probably able to fit 45 to 50 other persimmons in that pot, just to get them started and separate them later on, as you all very well may know, which is not hard to do. I think a lot of people put a lot of hype on how hard it is to separate them seedlings. This 2-gallon pot. Now, I bought these pots with the intention of starting root suckers. I dug up some root suckers and I put root suckers inside these pots right here. I left the little dirt ball around that root sucker that was originally where it originally came out of the ground. I put potting soil on the bottom of the pot, a little bit of rooting hormone, set that root ball in there, and then filled the rest of the pot up with potting soil. And left them in the shade and worked with them. And they ended up living. I ended up transplanting them since then into root trapper pots. I'm looking at a spider crawling around in there. Nasty critters. Anyways. And then I went to the Pawpaw Festival and I bought a couple of grafted trees. And one tree in particular that I had bought came in a pot like this one. Now, I've seen these pots online. I've never used them, never had my hands on them, never seen the results of what they do. The one thing I noticed, there's a hole down here in the bottom. I would imagine you could snip that root off, or it would air prune. Once it got down here, the root would die off. And that's a good pot for a long taproot. But I started to order some, and to tell you the truth, I got to thinking, you know, maybe I need to really rethink that, because I would think that these pots would serve better in a very controlled environment, like a greenhouse. They would make good pots to start pawpaws in, to get the idea of starting a graft when the pawpaw hits about 2 years old. It's not a bad pot. Can't take nothing away from it. But I have my own preference of pots. And by the way, there's something I'll share with you in a little bit about this pot. These are the pots I like to use. I've showed them before. They're a root trapper pot. This Rootmaker Products company. And I really enjoy working with these pots. My seedlings that I put out here this year, they were grown in these pots after I separated them from the 3-gallon pot. Now, something that I'm going to point out to you here real quick. Grab the pots once again. That pot is round. Yeah, you can grow things in that pot, you know, tree seedling if you want. But what ends up happening is when that root gets down to the bottom, has no place to go, it'll turn, and then it'll turn and keep turning, and then it just keeps going in a circular motion. Yeah, some of it may come out here, but when it comes out here, it's going to end up air pruning itself, which will cause more root fibers. And one thing I've seen people do is they'll cut holes in these and put fabric in there for air pruning roots, which that's fine, it works. But when that bounds up like that and you plant that in the ground, you're still that's still going to be a circled mound, and that'll never go away. That'll always be there in that pot. That's the same for that 3-gallon pot. Now, this one here wasn't as drastic. When I pulled the grafted tree from this pot and planted it, it had a lot of root fiber up in here. I mean, it was pretty well loaded with root fiber. But it too, down in the very bottom, it had some bounding scenario going on. Not drastic, but a little bit. Not nearly as bad as a regular pot would have. And it was just drastic in that other pot. But this one right here, it wasn't as bad. It had some bounding in there, but it was enough from about right here down, and we're talking, that's a 14-inch pot. And I'm talking probably from about 11.5 inches down. There was a lot of fiber all around that pot. Now I'm back to this again, and like I said, I've been really thinking about this as far as those root tap pots. The reason why I like these pots right here is, you see the hose right here. If I was to plant the tree inside here and it started growing root fibers, and let's say I left it on a bench, well, those right there would cause air pruning of small fibrous roots as they tried to come out of there. And same with back here. You notice there's not a hole in the very bottom of it. But that being said, another thing that I really like about this pot is I can take this pot, I can plant my seedling in there, I can have a seedling in there, and put it down in the ground, like in a grow box, which I'm done here recently with root suckers, and just stick them down in that dirt, and they're completely surrounded with dirt, and I don't have to worry about that pot being hung up down in the ground when I pull it back up, because the root is trapped in that pot. Now you can see the ridges in that pot. That root's going to go down. It's going to start to turn in that pot just like it would any other pot. You're not going to stop that. But the key thing about it is when I took my seedlings out of this pot and I really looked at the root, I could see what was going on. That ridge is way down there in the bottom. I don't know if you can see that or not. That little ridge down there, it's a cross. That ridge, it snags on to that root, and that root tries to grow and keep going, and it can't keep going. It's already got its momentum of going in that direction, and it snaps that root. And when it snaps that root, you get fiber. And those fibers will grow out, spread out, and they'll find an edge, and they'll start to circle. And when they start to circle just like they normally do, there's other ridges in there, if you can see them. Those ridges are designed to break that root and cause that tree to put out more root fiber. And when you take your seedling out of this pot right here, the one thing I've noticed is they have a lot of good root system to them. I've got seedlings out here that are in really, really good shape right now, and they were grown in these, I'm going to say from the beginning of May until probably about the middle of August, which is not a lot of time, but I did have root fiber in there that I really liked, and when I took that tree out of that pot, it was a perfect copy of the inside of the pot, and I could see the roots. I could see the tap root where it had broken off. I think this pot right here is going to serve me the best as far as what it is I got going on. My root suckers are placed into this pot. They're in a grow box up there. I'm going to leave them up there for the winter. I'll mulch them in and everything with leaf mulch. They're surrounded by dirt, and let them go dormant inside that grow box. And then when I get my scions, that should be coming to me in the spring, probably about the end of March, and some scion I'll cut from a particular tree I have. When I get them, that'll be the time I'm going to take those root suckers out, take them in the house, put them on my workbench down in the basement. It's not overly warm, but it's not going to be real cold, and warm that soil up slowly to see if those root suckers have survived. And if they have, those are going to be used for my graft this year. Suckers came from a tree that survived some pretty bad winters, and I'd say it's a pretty hardy tree, and we'll have to see what happens with that. But anyways, just wanted to share a thought with you about the different types of pots that I've used and other people have used, but it's just a thought. If you have any thoughts of your own, feel free to comment in the comments section underneath my page. My name's Jim. If you like what you see, subscribe. And don't forget to click on that bell for notifications. You all have a God bless day.